What does the word influence or maybe the concept of influence mean to you?
Thinking about influence, I never thought about my influence. I always thought about the influence I was witnessing. The ones that were doing things that even others told them they couldn't do. The number one influencer was they influenced themselves to get up off the couch, to create a better life, to try to cope with maybe some travesty in their life. And then they influence everybody that saw them. I always tell the age group athletes, you inspire and you influence others just by your actions.
Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea, where we unpack all things influence and we help leaders particularly find their influence by talking to amazing humans and finding out what influence means to them, who they've been influenced by and who they have influenced. And this podcast episode proudly sponsored by the Guinea Group of companies. The Guinea Group helps leaders upgrade, upskill, uplift their teams and their influence. We're talking to Mike Reilly today, and I'm going to introduce Mike now. Mike's one of the most recognizable voices in endurance sport, and I'll tell you, and Mike will tell us how that came to be soon. But team, very fortunate today. I never thought that I'd get the chance to talk to an amazing human like this on our podcast. Welcome to the Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea. Today we got Mike Reilly all the way from San Diego, California. Mike has done on-site announcing and television for running and triathlon events worldwide. Get this, since the 1970s. This has placed a microphone in Mike's hands at over 1,000 endurance events. 1,000 endurance events. He's best known as the voice of Ironman, and he's called 33 Ironman World Champs in Hawaii, 215 total Ironmans worldwide. Mike's called me over the line 4 times, which I'll talk about maybe in this. Mike's the only person who's been inducted into the Ironman Hall of Fame, which was in 2011, the Running USA Hall of Fame 2011, and the USAT Hall of Fame in 2018. Unbelievable. Since 1991, over 450K triathletes worldwide have heard the famous heartwarming phrase, "You are an Ironman," which is why some of us do the sport just quietly. Mike's been involved with endurance sports since running his first marathon and owning a running shoe store with his brother in 1978. 1978 and 1979 are quite powerful years in Ironman, which we'll talk about too. He then moved on to represent lines such as Kona on the West Coast, completed his first triathlon in 1979. That's another powerful year. Mike's endurance on Ironman Day, absolutely legendary. And to start at 5 a.m., welcoming athletes into transition and putting them in the water, his day ends 17 hours later, 17 hours after the 7 a.m. start, and his energy enthusiasm at midnight is as great as it was for the champions when they come through sort of in 8 hours. Mike and his wife, Rose, who's also run a marathon, reside in Poway, California. Get this, daughter Erin is mum of grandsons Graham and Leo. She's a Boston Marathon finisher, and husband Andrew is an Ironman finisher. Son Andy owns Event Grow, which is a marketing company working with major events such as the LA and the San Francisco marathons. Father of grandson Brooks, and he is the father of grandson Brooks in a 2013 Ironman Arizona fixture. Mike, it sounds like you've inspired the next generation of athletes in your family as well.
Well, that really wasn't the plan. You know, we didn't really push endurance on the kids. My daughter was a gymnast in high school. My son played professional baseball, but after all that was over with, you know, all of a sudden they started running and doing things, and I guess that's the old adage, actions speak louder than words, and we just did a bunch of stuff, and now they're doing it.
I love it, Mike. I love it. Before we talk triathlon, like, you know, the podcast is about influence. What does the word influence mean to you? Like, you have had such a big influence on people's lives. Like, people just, you know, hear your voice and it just takes them to a special place. What does the word influence or maybe the concept of influence mean to you?
Thinking about influence, I never thought about my influence. I always thought about the influence I was witnessing. The ones that were doing things that even others told them they couldn't do. And the number one influencer was they influenced themselves to get up off the couch, to create a better life, to try to cope with maybe some travesty in their life. And then they influenced everybody that saw them. I always tell the age group athletes, you inspire and you influence others just by your actions. And it doesn't, you don't have to preach to people and tell them what you think they should do. Just show them by your actions. And so the word influence to me has always meant that I was influenced by every finisher that came across the line because I knew they had some kind of backstory, and I wanted to give them as much praise and accolades at that finish line as I could. And they influenced my life. They influenced my life constantly for over 35 years. I mean, because of what I saw and what I witnessed. So when you say, Mike, you're an influence, I have a tougher time with that because I believe that the influencers were the ones that were getting to the start line than getting to the finish line.
Beautiful answer. Thanks for sharing. And you're right. I love how you finished that then, because they sometimes say in Ironman particularly, it's harder to get to the start line than it is to the finish.
No kidding. That's where the real journey's at. That's crazy.
That's right. Now, Mike, I've got to ask, like, who got you into this? Like, was it just a lucky thing? Like when I talked to Pete Murray about this, he was sick one day and couldn't do the race, so he picked up a mic. But like, was there someone who got you into this?
Yeah, there actually was. There was a 10K running race here down at Mission Bay in San Diego, and I had a bad hamstring, but I was running all the time, and I knew a bunch of friends that were running the race, so I went down there because that's what we did. It was the weekend. We went to a race, and everybody took off, and the race director, Lynn Flanagan, God rest her soul, she walked up to me and she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I can't run. I've got a bad hammy." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I've got this stand-up megaphone speaker and this microphone with a hard wire to it. You know everybody. Why don't you call out their names?" And she handed me a printout of the entrance. There was like 300 entrants in the race or something like that. And for the ones out there who may know, it was on a dot matrix printout. So I grabbed it and it all kind of unfolded and I put it back together. I go, "Yeah, I'll call them in." And you know what I was thinking, Anton? I was thinking the person I am, I go, "Oh my God, buddies are running this race. I'm going to give them a hard time and tell them, next time, why don't you train for the thing? And you look terrible." And that's what went through my mind. So I said, yes, I'd be happy to. Well, when I started calling people in, I saw the looks on their faces, and I would just say the normal, "Hey, Jane Brown, how you doing? Congratulations, you did it, you finished, you look fantastic." And they would all look at me and point and smile and raise their arms. And I saw that my words were making them a little bit happier than if they hadn't heard it. Sure, they were proud of themselves for finishing the race and all that good stuff, but I got to add a little to it. And I go, wow, this is kind of cool. I get to, let me see what I can say to the next person, and that's really how it started. And race directors started calling me up, "Hey, will you announce my race?" And I go, "No, I'm running it." It's not like they were pulling money out of the bank to give it to me. So I said, "I'm running it." And then the race director that put me on the microphone, she called me some months later, and there was a half marathon, and she said, "Can you call this half?" I go, "No, I'm running it. I want a PB at this thing, And she goes, I think I'll give you like $150. I go, "What? Are you kidding me? You'll pay me to?" In my mind, I'm thinking, "You'll pay me to bullshit on the microphone and I'm Irish? Are you kidding me?" And so I said, "I can always run the race." And so I called the race, and I felt so bad about running. I actually ran it after everybody had come in. I went out and did the course because I had trained for it. It was kind of weird doing that. I was out there by myself. So that's how I got started. It was just somebody handed me a microphone, and I found pleasure in it, and I found pleasure in making someone else feel better about themselves.
Now, I've got to ask, and I've read it in your book, but for everyone out there, because obviously a lot of people that listen to this in my community will be connected to triathlon. How did the four words come about? Like, how did you think of that? Like, what's the science behind how powerful that's become?
Yeah, I like to tell people I had a huge whiteboard in my house, and I go, "What can I say? What can I say? What can I say?" You know how somebody kicks a football or soccer goal, you score. You know, they had baseball with announcers. It's a home run. You know, whatever they'd say. I never thought. I just congratulated people. It wasn't in. I called the race in '89 and '90. It wasn't until '91 I had a friend from San Diego in the race, and a lot of San Diego. I mean, it was like half the race was San Diego people. And I saw him on the street on Lee Drive a few days before the race, and he just didn't have any confidence. He goes, "I don't know, Reilly, I'm not going to do that well." And I go, "Well, Dan, you did the race last year. You did great," which he did. And he goes, "No, I don't know. This year I'm not. I don't know." And he just had no confidence. I said, "Don't worry, you'll do it." Well, I saw him the day before the race checking his bike in. And right away he looks at me and goes, "I know, Reilly, you tried to pump me up and everything, but I don't know. I think I'm going to have a shit day." I go, "Well, no, you're not. You're going to have a good day." And as he was walking away, I said, "Don't worry, you're going to be an Ironman tomorrow." And that's just what I said to him. Well, the day went on. People are finishing. I didn't say that. I just congratulating people. And then I had the binoculars out because we had no spotting system back then. The binoculars and trying to read a number. I hope it wasn't crimpled up on the front or the dude put it behind him. So I see him coming in, and the other announcer I was working with was on the microphone. I go, "Hey, let me take this next guy. I know." So I started calling him in. I told everybody he was from San Diego. I said his name. And as he got closer to the finish line, I just pointed down to him. I go, "You are an Ironman." And I said it like in your face. I told you were going to do this, and you did it. And he pointed up at me and laughed. And it was just kind of a one-on-one moment. But the crowd, they like roared. And they didn't know who Dan was. I mean, he was, 12 hours, 13, they didn't know who he was. And I go, "Oh, maybe." So the next person started coming in, and I said the name, and I go, "You are an Ironman." And the crowd, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And that's just how it was born. And the other announcer didn't really want to say it. I don't know, because he didn't think of it or whatever. So people would say, I'd hear him say it, the spectators. So I started saying it for everybody. And then a woman was coming in, and I go, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You are an Iron." I mean, I had like 8 seconds to think about this as she was coming in. And the only thing I thought of, well, it's an Ironman race, and it's an Ironman. So I said, "You are an Ironman" to her, and she's waving to me like I'm her best friend. And I go, "Oh, okay, that's good." So that's how it came about, and that's how I said it ever since. And because of that, Anton, when I one-on-one'd with my friend coming in, it was a one-on-one conversation. That's how I looked at it for almost 500,000. We had a one-on-one conversation at that moment in time in their lives and at that finish line.
Mate, great story. Thanks for sharing, Mike.
Sure.
And those words, someone asked me one time, like, "Why do you do Ironman?" This is like back in the day, this is 2010 or 11 and around that Melbourne time. Mm-hmm. And I said, "So Mike Reilly can call me across the line and say, 'You are an Ironman.'" That's why we do the sport, so it's that important to some people, and we really appreciate it as athletes. So yeah, that was really
good. After Foster Tuncurry, the third year, and I was there calling everybody in, and I think the coalition of Kona, of Hawaii, and Reilly was in Kona, and he gets to bring that call here. But we were at the after party there, which are legendary because, all of a sudden I started seeing the sun come up. I go, "I think we've been out a while. These Aussies know how to do it." So I had a guy belly up to the bar with me. I'm getting a beer, and he looks at me, "Mike, you're a fucking legend." And then it's the first time I heard a word legend. I go, "What are you talking about, legend?" it just, they were just enamored by what I would say. And I remember going to Frankfurt, I ran Germany, and I could say you are an Ironman in German, and I would learn, no, 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 do not say in German, no, say you are an Ironman. Really? Yeah, yeah, we want with in Kona. And so the 4 words, they had a universal language of their own. Everybody understood it.
I love it. Talking about that, you came over to Busso one year, and we were at and I sent you the photo where like I came in late to the pre-event, and I just sat at the first seat that I could find. Turns out it's the dignitary table. No, I didn't know that, and I just. It was my first Ironman, new to the sport. Just thought, I'm going to do the whole thing, the banquet and everything. And I sit next to this particular dude, and he's pretty cool to talk to, and we're having a great chat about the sport, and he seems to know a lot about the sport. Anyway, then he gets called up on stage to be the MC for the evening, and it turns out it was Mike Reilly. And you come back down, I went, "You're famous, mate. So let's get a selfie." But so yeah, I didn't, obviously I didn't know the sport back much then because it was my first Ironman. But I've done 4 Aussie ones, and you've managed to be there. Melbourne, Busso, Melbourne. I don't think you did Cairns. You didn't do the challenge one in Cairns, but
No, I didn't. I never did camp.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I didn't think you did.
Never got it. I mean, Pete Murray and I worked together, obviously, in Port and in Bustle. We had one of the best times we ever had in Bustle. It was he and I and Belinda Granger, and nobody could get a word in edgewise. So I just let the 2 Aussies go, and I go, they'll wear themselves out. I'm the guy that's got to go till midnight. So
And did they? Because Pete goes all day too. He's pretty strong.
Yeah. It was we had the time of our lives. It was really one of my most special calls working with those guys. The toughest thing about Bustle was it was always in December, and after Kona, and then we added Arizona after Kona here and Florida, and I was wiped out. And they said, "Please come to." So I go to Bustle, I fly to Sydney forever. I fly another 5 hours over to Perth. I call who is it? Shane, I think Shane Smith. I said, "Hey, I got the rental car. I'll see you in a little bit." He goes, "Mate, you got to drive like 2 more hours." I go, "I just been flying for 23 hours. I got to drive now 2 hours to get." It was forever. I should have gone the other way. I should have gone through London the other way. I think it'd have been quicker.
Absolutely. Hey, Mike, talking about Busso and all the Ironman events, and I love in your book where you talk about the people you meet on the journey, the people you meet on the road, and then you talked at the start of this about some of the stories. Can you share with our listeners like just how impactful some of those stories were? You've been to all these events around the world, but I love some of those backstories, the people that have overcome the adversity. Can you just share maybe the most important one with us?
Well, there's been the toughest part about writing that book. I'm writing my second book right now called Finding Your Finish Line. But with finding my voice, the toughest part was leaving out stories that I wanted to put in. I couldn't write a Bible. I mean, you just can just go so long. And so they all have their uniqueness. And whether someone was battling cancer or was someone lost someone they loved in their lives, or coming back from alcohol, drug, or gambling addictions, I've talked to them all, and the stories are all unique. Rob Ladwig, one story that I saw him do Kona. He did Kona back in, he was 52 years old. I think it was 2001. And I didn't meet him there, but I saw him again at Arizona. I said, "Oh, this guy's doing 2 in a row." And then we went to Taupo, New Zealand, and he was there again. So I started talking to him. I go, "Wow, you're doing a lot of Ironmans in a row." And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Why do you do it?" And he said, "August 28th, 1968. You gave me this date." And I go, "What's that?" And he goes, "It's the day my older brother Melvin was shot down in Vietnam in his Phantom jet, and he's still missing in action. So I'm going to do an Ironman until they bring Melvin home." And I stood there going, "That's an unmatched why." I've never heard that. I don't think anybody had. Well, that was 48 Ironmans ago. And they still have not brought him home. August of last year, he did Ironman Ottawa, the new one in Canada, and told me he's 78 now. He said, I don't know how many more I have in me, but I have to tell you, Mike, I got a call from one of the companies that tries to bring missing in action soldiers home from Vietnam, and they think they have located his plane where it's at. It's buried deep in the earth. It's going to be an archaeological thing. And here this came after probably his last Ironman. They may have more hope. So the stories that I've heard, I just am in awe of, because we all have to have a why. And some, I don't say one why is better than the other. Some may be a match, like Rob Ladwick's, for, to bring his older brother Melvin home. So the Ironman has a funny way of helping people cope, as you have to do in life. And with Ironman, you can't stand still. I say if you're standing still, you're moving backwards. You have to have that forward momentum. And that's what I see, the underlying theme of all these people. They were stuck for a while, if they lost a loved one, or but they start that forward motion. And a lot of them just go out for a 3K run. They just go run around the neighborhood. They do something to keep themselves in motion. And some go as far as doing an Ironman. So I wish I could, there's no pinpointing one story, because they're all very special and they're all unique.
I think the one that moved me the most was probably the Blaze Man. I love that story.
Yeah.
And how he put the roll into it, and then how Chrissy Wellington, was it Chrissy followed the Blaze Man?
Yeah, Chrissy would roll. Yeah,
that was beautiful,
and a lot of people would.
Yeah, so that was an ALS. That was a tragedy. So Mike, what I see you wear the brand so proudly. You're Ironman, you're Tridot. It's like you just embody this brand, and a lot of people don't get. I say, when you've been in a sport long enough, and I've been in it sort of 17, 18 years, and I've done the same event for nearly 2 decades, like at Mooloolaba and Noosa. And I say to people, the sport's given me so much, and people I don't think people can understand that concept sometimes if they haven't done a sport like this and have been immersed in it. I just love your take on, like, for you personally. I know that, for us as athletes, we hear your voice and stuff, and you're influenced by others, but the concept, the Ironman, the brand, everything about it, like what's it meant for you?
One of the simplest lessons in life is finish what you start. And when you put a big finish line in front of yourself, say, I want to do this, then you find out ways of how you can get it done. And you're going to go through a lot of hills and valleys of trying to get it done. And for some, it's an Ironman. For some, it's a half marathon run. For some, it's a 5K. I never have told anybody, you got to do an Ironman to be a complete human being. I would never say that. That's ridiculous. But I've talked to people that have told that they only had a few years to live, and they said to themselves, well, then I'm going to do an Ironman. They see that as the pinnacle of, if I can do that, then I can face anything else in my life. And maybe that's what Ironman, the old motto, the motto they have, if anything is possible. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it. But like I said, it doesn't have to be an Ironman. It has to be something. We humans always try to find the easy way out, the shortest path, the easiest way to get a task done. That's who we are. But it's not who we have to be. I always say, if you do something hard, you have to do something hard every day. I don't care if it's the New York Times crossword puzzle. You have to do something hard every day. You have to get yourself up a half hour earlier to get that workout in. Yeah, it's tough. But when you do those hard things, it gets you to a finish line, and you're so proud of it. So Ironman really is, it represents the pinnacle for a lot of people of, of being able to do something that others said you're crazy for even thinking about. And I think it heals. It helps one cope. And I bet people come up to me and say, Mike, you called me an Ironman 14 years ago. And I think about that day every day. Well, that person's a successful person in life. They know that they've done something that now anything comes their way, they're not going to hide, get under the covers. They're going to face it head on. And that's what that event does.
Face it head on. And I always say, Mike, if a resume comes across your desk and someone says, I do an Ironman in my spare time or run marathon, hire them because they're going to finish. They're going to be a good employee.
Exactly,
mate. This is going to be a tough question for you. Have you got a favorite Hawaii? Have you got a favorite Kona out of all of these years? Like, was it Iron War or was it back in the day? Like, is there like even a favorite Kona experience? Like, for people, because I've never done Kona and I've just, like, it's a dream. One day I figure if I live long enough, I'll just win my 80 to 5 year category.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Everybody ages up. When I do award ceremony, I look at my age group and I go, what the hell? They beat me by 2 hours. These guys are fast. So forget about the age up thing. It ain't happening because everybody's going to age up with you. So you got to be 100 when everybody else is dead for you to win your age category. When people ask me about the favorite, I always go back fondly on 1989, my first year there. I was like a kid in a lolly store. I'll use that term for you guys. And I was just soaking it all up. And here we had the race of a lifetime. Mark and Dave battling each other. I was getting splits from people out calling me from payphones along the course. I just clocked them at they just went through at a 5:43 mile. I go, you're on drugs. There's no way to run in 5:4. I didn't believe it. So it was just, and I knew Mark and I knew Dave, and I go, these guys are killing each other out there. So that in itself, and being my first year, was the first year for Rick and Dick Hoyt. Father Dick pulling his son Rick into inflatable, and I saw that and go, who are those people in the water after the swimmers? I didn't know who they were. And somebody said, oh, they've run a bunch of Boston marathons together. Now they're going to do an Ironman. I go, that's not going to happen. And they finished. So that first year was very, Mark Allen always says, he does, when we're working together on something, he goes, ask Mike Reilly who the first person he was he called across an Ironman finish line. Well, it was Mark, because he won the race in 89. I hadn't called anybody. So he always said, yeah, I was the first one to call across. I think Sarah Reinerson, the first female amputee to finish in 2000, and I may get the date wrong, 4, she came to Kona and she didn't make the bike cutoff and worked hard the whole year and came back and finished. She even had a motto called Unfinished Business. And when Sarah came in, that's something else. Oh my gosh. A lot of pro races that I was very impressed with. I mean, Chrissy Wellington couldn't get beat. Paula Newby-Fraser was no doubt, I think, the greatest Ironman athlete ever lived, winning 8 Kona titles. When I see athletes that had lost a tremendous amount of weight or overcame, they were all my heroes. So it's hard. They blend together, but if somebody starts talking to me about 2006, I'll go, oh, McKeely Jones won 2006. And, I'll start thinking about the year and things that happened. And I keep a diary. I've got a diary of every race with my thoughts. And it's funny how the diary always has the weather, especially if the weather was shit. I'll go, oh my God, it rained for 14 hours. We were all wet. But so somebody, what's my diary? I'll put in what I want. And then I would sometimes I wouldn't even say who won the race because I always thought, well, I put that in my diary. That's going to be public knowledge. Everybody's going to know that. I'm just going to put my thoughts in there. Maybe my wife went with me and we had a good time. I'll put that down, or, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's very hard to, obviously my last one in Kona in 2022 was very special, very emotional. Knowing I probably would not go back. And if I did, I don't think I'd be on the microphone. So, who knows?
What a lifetime of memories, Mike. Like, do you ever pinch yourself? You ever pinch yourself and just go, holy crap, this is special. I've done something that no other human probably will ever get the opportunity to do.
With my daily life, I don't think about that much. When I do, matter of fact, I've got 3 grandsons, 11, 7, and almost 2 years. And the 11-year-old, I took him to school today. Very bright kid. He knows what Ironman is. He's read my book. Can you believe that? And this morning he said, what were we talking about? Oh, somebody had sent me a picture in the mail of me shaking their hand at Kona from my last year, 2022. I just received the picture. Mike, will you sign this? And he gave me a gift certificate to a Nike store, which I don't ever want people to send me stuff like that, but he did. And I told my grandson, I go, God, yeah, I signed an autograph, and he sent. So, Papa, when you sign Ironman autographs, they pay you? I go, no. He just thought, no, buddy. Yeah, but you still sign autographs. I go, yeah, and he goes, yeah, that's cool, just like a baseball player. I go, yeah, I guess.
Or like a Hall of Fame legend is really what it is, mate.
Oh, there you go.
Mike,
yeah.
Mike, my wife says I'm not allowed fanboys, so it's just been such an amazing, and I can't thank you enough. I just never thought I'd get the opportunity to speak to you, and like I say.
Just ask.
He's such a likable, nice human, and obviously, we don't get to speak to people like you on a daily, regular. So, you've been such a big part of everyone's life out there in the sport and the brand, and thanks so much for being part of that, and it's been sort of great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic ride. I don't see it as over. People say, "Oh, you're retired." No, I'm just not traveling to 14 Ironman events a year all over the world, and I'm watching my grandkids play Little League and not missing anniversaries and birthday parties. And
that's right, Mike. What a great way to finish. I was going to say, what's the right advice for anyone out there thinking about, like, what's a powerful way to end this podcast? Is there a bit of advice? Have you got a life mantra? What's the big inspirational thing for anyone out there watching this podcast?
For all the things I've witnessed, for all the moments I've witnessed, and what people have overcome, I truly believe we are the cause of our own experience. Sure, you can be sitting at a street light and somebody can hit you from behind. I don't mean that. If you believe you're the cause of your own experience, you'll take responsibility for everything you say, everything you do, and how you react to other people. And you take responsibility for who you are and what you do. You're the cause of your own experience. And I truly believe if you live by that, you'll always find the finish line you put in your future. You're the cause of your own experience. It's really as simple as that. And when you break it down, it's simple, but it's pretty grandiose. It's pretty grandiose. So be the cause of your own experience. Keep those experiences positive, and you'll always find your finish line.
Oh, nice. Can't wait for the next book to come out, Mike Reilly. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Out of 10,
yeah,
it's lessons. The 10 lessons, discovering hope, heart, and yourself in life's toughest miles.
Can't wait. I loved finding my voice, and I love the next one as well. Mike, thank you.
Thank you for listening or viewing our Find Your Influence podcast with Anton Guinea. Another great chat. Please be one of the 10% of people who follow and subscribe and like our videos so that you can get more of them and you can hear more of our amazing conversations, the conversations that I get to have and that I get to share.